my name is Ariel and welcome back to another video. Today I am bringing you guys a middle grade recommendations video, and this was inspired by Believathon 2 Journey to the Stronghold, which is part 2 of Believathon, which is a readathon that was created by How to Train Your Gavin, who is a fellow YouTuber here on YouTube. So I would highly encourage you to go check him out. I'm going to link his channel as well as his announcement video. This readathon is all about reading middle grade, rediscovering your love for children's stories, even if you've never fallen out of them, then just to kind of get everyone else involved. It's all about believing in the impossible, and I just think it's really cute. You can definitely tell how much effort he's put into this readathon and how creative he's tried to make it. It's definitely a step up from what he did last year, which even then I still had a lot of fun. Gavin is so hilarious. I highly encourage you to go check out his video and to participate in this readathon as well. Any video that you click on will instantly bring a smile to your face. You can tell how much he loves his channel, how much he loves booktube, and just how passionate he is about middle grade in general and trying to get everyone involved in this community to read middle grade, and I just think that's great. He seems like the sweetest person ever. So like I said, I go out and check his channel, subscribe if you haven't already. He's putting some great stuff out there. It's a lot of fun, and I'm super excited for this readathon and for all the content that he's gonna be putting out. And yeah, just go ahead and check him out. If you haven't, fix your internet. He's beautiful. This is Believathon 2 Journey to the Stronghold. This is the compendium for it. There is in the announcement video a PDF format of it, so you can download it either on your mobile or on your computer, so you don't have to buy this little booklet that he created. But I just think that's awesome and sweet that he ended up, like, you know, making an entire book and having that be an option. So I went and purchased it. Like I said, you don't have to. All of the information is in his announcement video there, as well as, you know, having the prompts and the map here and the foreword. There's also like other recommendations in here too, so if you're struggling to figure out what to read, there's stuff in here as well. Gavin's also made a recommendations video, so I would check that out as well. I want to try and hopefully recommend you guys some things that haven't already been mentioned, so if you guys want to stick around, I got some middle grade to recommend, and hopefully you enjoy this. As you guys know, I've been really getting into middle grade recently. A lot of it has to do with the fact that I am the kids lead and my whole job is to recommend middle grade to kids, and so I really started to read a lot more so that way I can sift what I think is good and bad. Obviously not one size fits all, but I hope if you like my channel then you probably like the books that I read or what I have to say. So the way that Believathon works is that there is a map and we all start off at the Poacher's Pocket Inn, and then depending on which way you go, either through like the east, the west coast, middle, or the east coast. Didn't know my east and left. East and left. Oh, we're struggling already. And all of these little locations on the map are inspired by middle grade books. So I thought this was really cute. Everyone starts off at the Poacher's Pocket Inn, and the Poacher's Pocket Inn prompt is to read the first book in a series. And so I have some recommendations obviously for that prompt. So the first book that I would recommend is a recent 5-star read for me, and that is Ipoka, the Tree of Ekroth, which was created by Kobe Bryant and written by Ivy Clare. This follows two main characters, Prisha and Rovi. They kind of have their own personal struggles. Prisha is a princess of this kingdom, and she will not inherit the crown if she does not have Grana, which is this special ability that gives you superhero athletic ability, and it is very prized in this society, and so if she does not have any, then she will not inherit the kingdom, so she's kind of keeping this a secret, and she is desperate to have Grana. Whereas Rovi, he's actually a thief, and he's been part of a group called the Star Stealers. He does have Grana, and he's just lived on his own and is kind of taking care of himself. They end up actually getting chosen, both of them, to go to this magic sports academy called Ipoka, where there is like this sacred tree that has been around since the gods roamed the earth. It's kind of like Harry Potter mixed with Greek mythology, as well as obviously the Olympics. So it's like Greek Olympics that originated in Greece, right? I don't know. But it's got like a kind of mishmash of the two. Superhero Olympics and like Greek gods with also a magic school. So there's just a lot of things that are going on that actually make this really, really cool. I was unsure of how this magical sports academy would turn out and how you could create that into a story, but I actually think it was really well executed. The characters are probably the best element of this story. I love these characters so much. Even the secondary characters are very memorable. One of my favorite characters from this book is actually a girl called Vera, and she has gone to this academy with hopes of proving herself because she has always lived in the shadow of her older brother. So this is the first book in the series. I believe the second one is either coming out this year or next year. I highly recommend it. I know it's a little sad that you can't follow it up with the next one, but I think this was so good. This also has like rainbow pages, which I think is cool. yeah, if that wasn't a selling point, I highly recommend this. Like I said, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I will recommend is actually a childhood favorite. They've recently redesigned the cover. They've gone through like 2 other cover redesigns, and the one that they have now is actually really cool. It's like neon and it actually has like Maleficent on the cover. Hint, it's a Disney book. And that is Kingdom Keepers Disney After Dark, which is book 1 in the Kingdom Keeper series by Ridley Pearson. Like I said, I read this when I was a child. I think I'm due for a reread eventually. But this is about 5 teenagers who get hired to be like holographic models for the Disney park. I guess it's set in like the near future where Disney starts using like holograms to guide people throughout the park so they can do like tours like at the Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, and stuff like that. But in their dreams, they like shoot to their hologram self. I don't know how to describe that, but they end up being like stuck almost physically in their hologram form when the park is after dark, like when the park is closed, and the villains of the park come to life and so do the rides. So it's like a really kind of creepy like thriller, especially like because some of those animatronics are sus. Some of them are scary looking. So the main character is Finn Whitman. He obviously lives in Orlando, Florida. Yeah, soon Finn finds himself transported in his DHI, which is digital hologram imaging form, into the Magic Kingdom at night. Is it real? Is he dreaming? Finn's confusion only increases when he encounters Wayne, an elderly Imagineer who tells him that the park is in grave danger. Led by the scheming witch Maleficent, a mysterious group of characters called the Overtakers is plotting to destroy Disney's beloved realm and maybe more. So it's basically just a bunch of kids that are trapped in Disneyland after dark, which is so cool. I think that's like every kid's like fantasy is to be stuck in Disneyland at night when nowhere else is there and they just have the whole park to themselves. I remember really loving this. Like I said, I will throw up the new cover because it looks pretty sweet, but I really liked this. This is book 1. I believe there's 4 or 5 books in the original series, and I know they're doing a spin-off as well. The next book that I want to recommend is The Tea Dragon Society by Katie O'Neill. This is just a fun little graphic novel. I'm sure you've seen people talk about it before. It is just so sweet and wholesome, and it's basically about this girl right here. I don't know if you can see this girl. And she basically learns and discovers the ancient art of tea making through raising tea dragons. It's just the sweetest little story. I know the Tea Dragon Festival has just recently come out. Well, not recently, I guess. Within like the last 5 months-ish. And I believe there's going to be a 3rd book kind of in this world. So if you wanted to start off with the first introductory, Tea Dragon Society, you can't go wrong. If you just want something that'll make you happy, especially in times like these, this is just like sweetness, cotton candy in a book. So I would definitely recommend this. It's so cute. I'm actually hoping to get the Tea Dragon Festival soon. And then lastly, one thing that I wanted to do is talk about some Asian authors and some Asian middle grade, because Read with Cindy is also doing the Asian Readathon, and while I haven't read a lot of Asian written work, which I need to change, I do want to talk about maybe some new releases or some books that I do have that I'm looking forward to reading. I know Gavin in his video didn't want to recommend anything he hadn't read before, which is understandable because how can you kind of give it a stamp of approval or recommend it to someone else when you haven't actually read it yourself. However, I just want to, obviously I won't say that I recommend it, but if you're looking for something and you want to participate in the Asian Readathon like I do, then I will kind of show you and feature some books. Obviously if I've read them I will tell you, but I just wanted to give it as an option because I know some people are participating in the Asian Readathon and might also want to participate in Believathon. So just to give you those options and also to talk to you about some books that I'm looking forward to, like I said, especially new releases that have come out. I know a lot of authors are kind of getting hit with this quarantine. People might not know about these new books, so I just figured I would shout it into the void and see if you guys are interested. A lot of these look super cute, so I would give it a shot. And I would recommend you guys to give it a shot too. I am going to try to read some new middle grade books by Asian authors, but I will put those books in my TBR. I'm deciding on which ones I want to get. I think I have it set, but just in case, you'll see which ones I'm going to be reading in my TBR. I will recommend these or just kind of bring them to your attention if you're interested. So if you want to read the first book in a series by an Asian author, I would recommend, I would suggest, can't say recommend because I haven't read it, Rashon and the End of Time by Rashon Choshki. She, I believe, is Filipino as well as Indian, so this would obviously count. I have not read this, like I said, but this looks looks super cute, and just to give you a brief synopsis on what this book is about. So it says 12-year-old Arusha has a tendency to stretch the truth in order to fit in at school. While her classmates are jetting off to family vacations in exotic locales, she'll be spending her autumn break at home in the Museum of Ancient Indian Art and Culture, waiting for her mom to return from her latest archaeological trip. Is it any wonder that Aru makes up stories about bringing royalty, traveling to Paris, and having a chauffeur? One day, 3 schoolmates show up at Aru's doorstep to catch her in a lie. They don't believe her claim that the museum's lamp of Barada is cursed, and they dare Aru to prove it. Just a quick light, Aru thinks, then she can get herself out of this mess and never ever fib again. But lighting the lamp has dire consequences. She unwittingly frees the sleeper, an ancient demon whose duty it is to awaken the god of destruction. So that sounds like a fun time. Never knew what it was about. Bad on me. I definitely should pick this up. I probably will at some point. The next prompt is Yellow Brick Road, and this is to read a book that you were supposed to read ages ago. Now, an easy way for me to recommend this, if you haven't read Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, or A Series of Unfortunate Events, there you are right there. You should have read those ages ago, and that's on me as well because I only recently started reading Percy Jackson last year. But if you haven't read those, I would suggest them. The next prompt is Baba Yaga's House, and this is to pick a book that features family relationships, and the first book that I will recommend is Beastkeeper by Kat Ellison. This is like a nice little short read, and it is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, but with kind of a twist on it. Our main character, Sarah, is being dropped off at her grandparents' house, which she's never met before in her life, by her father. Recently, her mother has just left her and her father, and her dad seems to be leaving her as well. And what she discovers is that her family has been cursed, and from the moment that they fall in love for the first time is the moment that they begin to transform into a monster. And there are ways to kind of subdue and control it, but there is no way of stopping it. Sarah learns about this herself. I don't want to go into too much of it because obviously it's such a short book, and if I say any more it'll give a lot away. Heartbreaking and melancholy in a way where it was just an interesting exploration. It was kind of different than anything that I had ever read before. Definitely unique. Probably the most unique Beauty and the Beast retelling I've ever read. I would definitely check this out. Like I said, it's super short. I got this on Book Outlet like ages ago. I don't know if it's still there, but this was a really sweet story. Kind of heartbreaking, but I would check it out. The next book that I will recommend is by an Indian American author, so this would work for Asian Readathon. I keep wanting to say Asianathon. We just smash them all together. This, like I said, was a recent read, and that is Midsummers Mayhem by Rashon. This follows our main character, Mimi Maxon, and she aspires to be the world's greatest baker, and she practices all the time. She has actually joined this local baking competition in town, so she's super excited to kind of show her work, but at the same time she has always never felt too confident in herself, and that's because she tends to compare herself to her older siblings, and just overall they overshadow her. She kind of takes a back seat. The only person in her family that she really relates to is her father, who is a food critic, so he's always been there to help with her baking and taste test for her and just give her advice on her journey. But after he's returned home from a trip, it seems that his sense of taste has been lost. He's starting to act really weirdly, and Mimi is confused on what is going on and if something is wrong with her father and maybe her parents' relationship. So like I said, this whole story is basically focused on family. It talks about Mimi's relationship with not only her parents but her siblings as well, and it is a retelling of A Midsummer Night's Dream. So Mimi accidentally sends things a little bit haywire among her siblings, and this was just a really fun story, super sweet. And Kara at Wild Book Garden was actually the one that recommended this to me first, so I would definitely also go check out her video. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was super cute. This cover is beautiful. I have a whole video where I talk about this. I read this during the Royal Weekender. If you want to participate in the Asian Readathon and also Believathon, this would definitely work, and I highly recommend this. The next book that I want to recommend, if we're going to talk heartbreaking, grab some tissues for this one, is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. And I think this is kind of borders the middle grade / YA. I'm not really sure, because our main character, I believe, is like 12 years old, so he kind of falls into the middle grade age range. This follows our main character, Connor, and his mother has been diagnosed with cancer, and she has been going through treatments for a while. Connor is not only struggling with that, He's struggling with bullies at school, as well as moving in with his grandmother, who they've never really seen eye to eye with each other. Connor's also been suffering from nightmares every single night, and he's just been plagued by these nightmares. One night, there is a tree that comes alive, talks to Connor and tells him these stories about how things are not always black and white. Boy, will this book wreck you. This is one of my favorite books of all time, and if you have not read this, this is the perfect opportunity to. There's some beautiful illustrations in this as well. There's also a movie of this too, which is not as good, but almost as equally on par. The main little boy will just break your heart. Like I said, there is the relationship between him and his mother, his grandmother, which he's moved in with, and also his father, who has kind of drifted in and out of his life. He's also present in the story. So this explores those family dynamics, as I said. I would highly recommend this if you have not read it already. The next book is The Wonderfalls, and this is to read a book that features disability. So for this, I would suggest The Unteachables by Gordon Corman. There is someone who is dyslexic in this book, as well as there is a student that deals with anger issues and anger management. But this was a really good story, I think, for adults and kids alike, especially teachers, because it features a classroom full of students that other teachers have basically given up on. They're either what they consider delinquents, troublemakers, or just people who don't apply themselves. They've all kind of just been thrown into this classroom. And they've just been let loose to run amok, basically. No one is there to guide them. There's also a teacher whose name is Mr. Kermit. He was involved in a cheating scandal a couple of years ago with a prior student, and since then his reputation has never fully recovered, and the school district is trying to get him to quit before he can get his early retirement. So they assign him to the Unteachables, thinking that they will be so horrible that he will want to quit. As time goes on, Mr. Kermit kind of identifies with these students as he sees that these teachers have given up on them and they haven't really gotten the chance to understand them. So he guides them and he sees himself in them and he inspires them to be more than what others expect of them. He just makes discoveries about his students and he helps them to become better. And I thought this was really sweet. Like I said, I definitely think teachers as well as kids can benefit from reading this, and it has the dyslexic and the anger management issues that are handled in this as well. And I think they were really well handled, actually. The next book that I would recommend, I actually don't have the physical copy of because I listened to it on audiobook. That is Randy Rhoads' Ninja Detectives, The Case of the Missing Time Capsule. This was written by Octavia Spencer, and this features a character who is deaf, partially deaf, as well as he's an asthmatic. That's the main character, one of the main characters, DC. This is about our main character, Randy Rhoads. Her father is a famous author and he wrote this detective series, and Randy really looked up to the main character that her father wrote, and she started doing her own detective work in Chicago where they lived. But after the passing away of her mother, her father decides to pack up their stuff and they move to a town in the south. He kind of wants her to keep out of trouble and to not make any waves. However, she ends up taking on a case because when they move there, the town is getting ready for a time capsule ceremony. The town is celebrating an anniversary and they're digging up this old time capsule. They have invited the president to be here at this like ribbon ceremony. Someone has stolen the time capsule, and if there is no time capsule, there is no ceremony, and if there's no ceremony, then the president will not come, which the members of this town were really looking forward to the tourism of this event to kind of help their local businesses, which have been suffering recently. This was such a fun story. I also read this in a video, so if you haven't seen that, I would also check that out. The audiobook for this was really good. It is narrated by Octavia Spencer, and she did such a great job. So for 100 Acre Woods, which is the prompt for this, is to read a book with yellow on the cover. You could do The Unteachables, which I just showed. Another book that I would recommend for this prompt is Here in the Real World, and I know it might look mostly green, but the main character, Jolene's hair is blonde, so there's a little speck of blonde hair in this. I really wanted to talk about this book. I wasn't sure really where else to put it. I guess this could technically also work for Baba Yaga's house, but the family dynamic isn't really the forefront of this story. It's definitely a story about friendship. This is a really sweet middle grade that I read earlier this year. Did I Ever Say? It was by Sara Pennypacker. This follows our main character, Ware, and he has been an introvert his entire life. So, hashtag relatable. He's never really gotten along with like big crowds. He's rather be off by himself, creating his own imaginary games and kind of living into a fantasy world that he's created. He is obsessed with knights and the idea of chivalry, while also trying to realize that he needs to discover a more feminist version of that, which I thought was really funny and really sweet. But he's always wants to do what is right, and he has this ideal society in his head that he lives in, basically, where everything is fair. His parents drop him off at this like daycare center, and he's been there before over other summers, but he decides to dip when he sees a girl in an abandoned church lot next door building a garden, and this is our main character Jolene. So he ends up hopping the fence, and they strike up an interesting friendship. And whereas Ware, like I said, is very imaginative and believes in justice, Jolene is very much a realist and a cynicist, and just kind of has like just not the most positive views on life. They're at odds with each other, but they end up coming together to kind of rebuild this abandoned church. Ware decides to make his part like a castle. They split it in half, whereas Jolene uses this to create her garden, and there's kind of like a big mystery on why she's creating a garden. She doesn't let Ware know anything about her personal life, why she's doing the things that she's doing, or why she has the beliefs that she has. Slight trigger warnings, they don't show it, but it definitely does deal with child abuse and child neglect, as well as alcoholism. So if you have any issues with those, like I said, it's not actually shown, but it is talked about and it is revealed in the story. I thought this was really sweet. I highly recommend it. I didn't, like I said, really know where else that it would fit in this readathon. Speaking of new releases, an Asian author that has just come out with a new book that also has yellow on the cover that has been on my radar, I have not picked up yet. If you wanted to pick up something that was a new release by an Asian author to participate in Asian readathon, or just to read from an author of color, because that's always nice to do, that is Stand Up Yumi Chung by Jessica Kim. This is about our main character Yumi Chung, who is an aspiring comedian. However, her parents do not really want that kind of lifestyle for her. She is also very shy in her normal life. People often make fun of her because she smells funny, because she smells like her family's Korean barbecue restaurant. But she ends up, I think, going to like a comedian camp under like a false disguise as someone else. So she's lying about her identity. And if people found out, then not only she'd be kicked out of the school, but she'd also get in trouble with her parents. So this sounds like a really fun, like, kid story. This one's definitely on my radar. The next prompt is The Deep Woods, and that is to read a book that was published before the year 2000. Ones I would recommend for this are kind of ones that I actually read in my childhood or were forced to read for school, but I actually really loved them. And that is Bridge to Terabithia. This follows our main character, Jess, and he ends up making a new friend. I forget her name, and I feel really bad that I forget her name, but they create this imaginary world in the forest where they can kind of beat their bullies and find out ways to discover what their real life issues. This was a really sweet story, also very heartbreaking. This is by Catherine Peterson. Link it up below or put a picture of it. The other one I would recommend is Where the Red Fern Grows by Wilson Rawls. This is about our main character. He has like 2 dogs, and they help him on his hunting expeditions. This is obviously historical fiction. And if you've ever loved a dog, this will also break your heart. I remember really loving this. As a child, both of these books I was like sobbing in class when I got to the end. Both really good books, both published before the year 2000. If you were not forced to read them in school, I would definitely check them out. The Chronicles of Narnia is also a fun one, so if you haven't read that, that would work for this. As well as Alice in Wonderland, I read that last year. That was super fun, super cute. Obviously everyone knows Alice falls down the rabbit hole. Things that don't make sense happen, but it's a lot of fun. So that is another one that you can use for this prompt. As well as I believe the earlier Harry Potter books and the earlier series of Unfortunate Events, which would also qualify for this prompt. The next prompt is Mermaids Lagoon, and this is to read a book featuring female friendships. I would recommend Moon Over Manifest by Claire Vanderpool. This follows our main character, Abeline Tucker. She has lived on the road with her father, kind of railroad hopping her entire life. He ends up dropping her off at an old friend's house in this town called Manifest, and she's under the idea that she's only going to be here for a short amount of time before she ends up skipping town again with her dad. So she's very against putting down roots and getting attached to people. She does not want to build any sort of friendships or connections at all with this town or with its members. She ends up going to school though, and she meets 2 other girls whose names are Letty and Ruth Ann, and despite her not wanting to become friends with them, she does. And they kind of uncover slight hints of this mystery of the town's past, and they start digging into it. But the more that they dig into the town's past, someone starts leaving them like threatening notes to keep their noses out of business that is not theirs. But despite someone trying to cover up something in the past, they are still trying to discover this old town's mystery. And there's also two different timelines that it flashes back to. It flashes back to a time period when her father was in the town of Manifest about the past. So those little stories intertwine. I read this a couple years back and I really loved it. It was super sweet, like a fun historical fiction, and it talks about immigration coming together despite people's differences and cultural backgrounds, and it talks about acceptance. I really loved this story. I would highly recommend it. Another one that I'd recommend is Stargazing by Jen Wang. Obviously she is a Taiwanese author, so this would work for the Asian readathon. This follows our main characters Christine and Moon. Christine befriends Moon after her parents invite Moon and her mother to move into the guest house in their backyard. Moon and her mother have fallen on hard times. It is just the two of them and they've been struggling to make ends meet. So that is why Christine's family offers them the guest house. And Moon is very outgoing, very passionate. She's kind of wild and does not hold herself back. She loves to dance to K-pop and paint her nails crazy colors and just kind of be a free spirit. And Christine envies this in a way. She finds Moon fascinating and they obviously strike up a quick friendship. But Christine starts to get a little bit of jealousy when Moon starts going to school with her and all of her friends also want to be friends with Moon, and she seems to become very popular in a way that Christine in her entire life of being here has never been able to accomplish. It's about a story about friendship obviously, as well as jealousy and not judging other people by their past or their actions, as well as their family life and background, because people end up prejudging Moon about like rumors and the fact that she is kind of low income. Great story. Little fun graphic novel. Will not take you that long to read it all, and it's perfect for this prompt. Little fun graphic novel. Will not take you that long to read it all, and it's perfect for this prompt. The next prompt is the Brawley Rail, and this is to feature a book that has some sort of transportation element to the story, or if not, at least transportation element on the cover. I know this is like Gavin's favorite book, but if you haven't read it already, Frostheart, they go on a sleigh. There's also really cute illustrations in this as well. Frostheart by Jamie Littler. This follows our main character Ash, and he lives in Stronghold, and in his stronghold it is illegal or against, it is not allowed to sing because there are these leviathans that also sing, and if you sing you can have this like weird sort of connection from them. They're called song weavers and they're just very feared in this society because they think that they can control the leviathans to do their bidding. Ash has been on his own. He has grown up with a foster parent who is this Yeti. His parents never returned from an expedition, and as far as he can remember, and the like one memory that he has of his mother is this lullaby that she used to sing to him. So he desperately has this urge inside of him to sing. It is against the rules, and it kind of takes him on this adventure. He joins this expedition, a sled with a bunch of people. It's a lot of fun. Highly recommend. I'm not explaining these well anymore because I feel like I've been sitting here for a while. But if you haven't read this one, I would definitely check it out. Another one that I would recommend is one of my favorite middle grades. I read this last year and I gave it 5 stars, and it was also my top 10 books of 2019. That is Doll Bones by Holly Black. This fits the prompt because it has the boat. It could also fit the prompt for yellow on the cover, but this follows our main characters Zach, Poppy, and Alice. Zach is our main character. He used to be friends with Poppy and Alice, but then one day out of the blue he decides that he does not want to hang out with them anymore. He used to have this imaginary game with like action figures and dolls, like this kingdom and these mermaids. They basically had this like whole imaginary game that they would play out, kind of like D&D, but they had their own little action figure. Zach decides he doesn't want any part of that anymore, and he kind of wants to ditch Poppy and Alice. Poppy convinces Zach to join her and Alice on one last adventure. The queen of their little game is actually this antique doll that belongs to Poppy's mother. Poppy says that this doll has been haunting her dreams, will not stop haunting her until they put the doll to rest, because apparently because it's an antique doll, it was made with like actual like little girl hair and like little girl parts. So the spirit has been trapped and has not been laid to rest. Zach decides to go along with Poppy and Alice to find this girl's grave site and put the rest of her remains there. It's a really creepy book. It has a lot of fun adventure. The elements of middle grade that I love were so prevalent in this because there is a little bit of troublemaking, a lot of adventure, and it also each of the characters kind of deal with their own personal like family backgrounds and struggles. Zach, for instance, is dealing with a father that has just returned after their parents' separation, and his father is trying to reclaim his parental role with Zach in a way that is not helpful at all. I really don't know how else. Oh, I'm describing this so bad. But just know that Zach is like dealing with the fact that his dad has been gone the past like 5 years, and all of a sudden he's back. Hard hitting at parts, and I really enjoyed this. Give it a shot if you haven't already. This could work for the Brawley Rail prompt. Two other books that I want to talk about that I am interested in that I will probably pick up are Leilani of the Distant Sea by Erin Trotta Kelly. She is a Filipino author, so this would work for the Asian Readathon. I feel bad about mentioning this because I really don't know what it's about. I believe it also has to do with family and a journey, as well as A Wish in the Dark. Again, I feel like I shouldn't recommend this one either or talk about it because I don't know what it's about, but this is also by, I think, a Taiwanese author. This is by Christina Soontornvat, and I think this is a fantasy story. A boy on the run, a girl determined to find him, a compelling fantasy that looks at issues of privilege, protest, and justice. All in the light of Chitana is created by one man, the governor, who appeared after the Great Fire to bring peace and order to the city. For Pong, who was born in a Namwan prison, the magical lights represent freedom, and he dreams of the day he will be able to walk among them. Yes, so it's set in a Thai-inspired fantasy world. Christina Soontornvat's twist on Victor Hugo's Les Miserables. Oh, so it's a retelling. Didn't even know that. Is a dazzling, fast-paced adventure that explores the difference between law and justice and asks whether one child can shine a light in the dark. So those two books are on my radar. Let me see what Leilani of the Distant Sea. I put this in like my favorite book covers as well. I need to pick up both of these, and like I said, these would both work for the Asian Readathon. So Leilani of the Distant Sea, it says, there are stories of extraordinary children who are chosen from birth to complete great quests and conquer evil villains. This is no such story. Sometimes you are ordinary child. Sometimes you have to choose yourself. This is the story of Leilani Sarita, a 12-year-old girl who lives on the island of San Lagita in the shadow of a vengeful mountain. When she makes a fateful wish that endangers her already vulnerable village, she sets out across the distant sea in search of life's good fortunes. Go support some Asian authors and some new releases! So yes, those are on my radar. Also work for Brawley Rail. Let's move this along. Orion Found is to read a book with a sci-fi element. So two that I can think of right off the bat, again, if you haven't read them for school, is The Giver by Lois Lowry. This is one of my all-time favorite books. The Giver follows our main character, Jonah, who kind of lives in this utopian, dystopian society where the government controls literally every aspect of your life, from what you look like to what you wear, towards what age you get a bicycle, what age you stop having a teddy bear, as well as when you turn 12, like Jonah is. It is basically decided what job you are going to be doing for the rest of your life. So whether that is to be a healer, or to take care of the sick, or to deliver things, or to work in the lab, the government decides this, and they've been watching you since childhood, so they kind of have an idea of what best you'd be suited for. Jonah, however, in particular, is a unique case, and he has been chosen to be the receiver. In this society, there is a person called the Giver, and he holds all of the world's past memories from before society had changed. Things like war and weather, emotions, as well as like any sort of, not only just tragedy, but like good memories, because people in this world are like forced to take these pills that kind of eliminates any sort of emotional feeling or reaction. It's so interesting. This it is so well done. I remember reading this. I didn't have to read this for school, but I know it is a required read for a lot of people. Really touched me in a way that I was like surprised. It was very unique and something that I had never read before. So if you have not read The Giver, I would definitely check this out. One that I can recommend that I really enjoyed, but it's been a while since I've read it, is The Search for Wanda by Tony Ditzerlizzi. I don't know how to say his last name. This follows our main character, Ava 9, and throughout her entire life, she has lived underground with her like robot mother. And her robot mother has kind of forbid her from ever going outside or going above ground, and she does not know why. It's her whole entire life, it's just been her and her robot mom. And one day, though, their house ends up getting like broken into, and people discover that Ava 9 is there, and now these people are after her. Ava soon realizes that she is the last human kind, like of her, she's the last like human left. It says Ava 9 had never seen the actual sun before or walked outdoors. In fact, she had never seen another living person in all 12 years of her life. That changes when a marauding huntsman destroys her underground home and sends her fleeing for her life. She is desperate to find someone else who is like her, and a single clue gives her hope. A crumbling picture of a girl, a robot, and an adult in the word Wanda. The Search for Wanda begins a trilogy whose imaginative Anyways, so she is like the last of her kind on this planet, and she's trying to find others like her. But because she's so rare, this hunter, which is this guy, obviously he looks creepy, he's trying to hunt her and give her to like the queen who collects like rare species. This was a lot of fun, obviously science fiction. So if you have not read this series, I would definitely check it out. Like I said, there are some beautiful illustrations in this. Tony DeZarelli did also the illustrations for the Spiderwick Chronicles. I think he also wrote that series. No, Holly Black wrote it? I don't know. I could be making a mistake. Gotta check my facts on that one. Really good science fiction book. So I would recommend this. And lastly, we're at the Black Ice Bridge, which is to read a book with an adventure, which a lot of these books could also count for those. One last book I will recommend is Inkheart by Cornelia Funk. Things are going crazy now. The camera angles probably changed like a million times. But this follows our main character, Meggie, and her father has the ability to read characters out of their stories. However, when he reads something out, something else has to go back in its place. A long time ago, Maggie's father accidentally read a villain of a story out of its book, and he has managed to evade this villain for a long time, but they finally discover where Maggie and her father are living, so they kidnap her father and they use him to try and read a bunch of things out of their stories, whether that be treasure or other like bad characters, but Maggie's father doesn't really have like a control over his ability. This is a really fun story. I would highly recommend this. I read this when I was younger. Also, they have like beautiful UK covers, so if that's not incentive enough, I'll put a picture of them up there. Then I don't know what is. But this is a really fun series. Obviously, they're on the run from this villain character. So there's an adventure. She's quite thick though, so that's the only downside. However, it's a lot of fun, and it's middle grade, so the writing's a little bit bigger. So yeah, definitely check this one out. And then we've come to the end, which is the Bookkeeper Stronghold, which that is to just read the second book in a series. So if any of these books that I've talked about are series, you could just read the next one. That is it. This slowly became a mess, and I'm so sorry. We were like on it in the beginning, and then as time got on, it got hot, and I don't know what I was saying anymore, and I was just trying to pop out these recommendations. Really quickly, I guess I will mention other Asian-inspired middle grade that I am excited for. There's a lot of middle grade in general that I'm excited for, so maybe I should just make a whole video. Maybe that's what I'll do. I've already mentioned some in this, but I think I'm gonna create like a whole most anticipated releases slash things have already come out but are new releases middle grade. I don't know. It's a working title. We're a mess here. Definitely join Believathon, you guys. Join the Asian Readathon, or not, do whatever you want to, but it would be cool if you did. Let me know if you do plan on participating, if you have read any of the books that I have mentioned, if any of them sound interesting, and go follow Gavin because he is like the sweetest human being ever. You're not gonna make a mistake by subscribing to him. You're just gonna get a whole lot of happiness. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed some of this video. I know it got a little chaotic. What can you do? Again, my name is Ariel, and I guess I will see you guys next time. Bye!